You know, when you are part of something legendary, the irony is most of the time you don't realize it in the moment. You have to have a distance to realize it. And this spontaneous way of experiencing legendary moments makes it the big truth.
We were really just journalists at the time. It meant we were dealing with a lot of DJs, even as far afield as Detroit and Chicago. After about a year or so of doing Jockey Slut, we were approached to do a club night. I don't think we knew what we were doing at all in the early days. We definitely weren't savvy.
Manchester, the world's first industrialised city and a place steeped in musical heritage. But after the first wave of acid house had subsided, guitar music ruled and the hacienda was full of high heels and hard lads. A group of friends with a sense of mischief and a strange affinity for the music of two other once thriving industrial cities, Detroit and Chicago, wanted to start something memorable.
They were quite kind of hazy times.
Probably we've been to more bugged out nights than we actually remember. That's probably the beauty of it.
I can't remember.
I think I did something with Paul Oakenfold at Liverpool. That wasn't it. Oops, okay, edit that one out.
This is the thing, like, when you don't take drugs, you actually can remember things.
When you came to Bugged Out, you didn't know what to expect, but you knew you would be living a trip.
Anything with the name attached is an absolute belter of a party.
It's a byword of people who put interesting music together, people who love acid house.
The parties were off the hook. I mean, unbelievable.
Pulsating, rhythmic, jacking house.
Wherever you play in the world, there are certain clubs that are kind of an honour to play, and playing Bugged Out was definitely one of those.
So many amazing clubs and festivals and everything have fallen by the wayside, and Bugged Out has kind of carried on through that, like a phoenix rising out in flames.
So these two budding but jobless young writers decided to start a magazine, so they could write about these records they were into and get to meet the DJs that shared their passion.
Come on. I used to be a mobile DJ when I was growing up, from 13 onwards. I mean, in a way, I'm kind of doing the same thing now on a much bigger scale. My mum, who's in her 80s, still thinks I'm a mobile DJ. This is all where it started, Jockey Slut magazine. So this is from 1993. This is the first copy. For punks, bums, drunks and junkies.
Me and Jono were at university at the same time. We didn't talk to each other for a while because he was more into, you know, Prince and Public Enemy, and I was more into the Smiths and New Order. And also Jono wore a hat, which I always found off-putting.
Jockey Slut was something that we started after university. It was like a sort of a club fanzine.
The magazine was behind it all, really, because that created a very different sort of way of looking at dance music, the kind of irreverence. But then there was a real like curiosity around who was actually making this music that people were dancing to every week, and, you know, bringing people to life.
After about a year or so, we were approached to do a club night. We actually called Drinking Club, and it was in the top bar of a pub. And we put cigarettes out everywhere, and we had the Chemical Brothers, or at the time they were called the Dust Brothers.
Have mercy, have mercy, have mercy.
Andrew at Sankey Soap approached us and offered us, I think, what was then a fortnightly club night, and I think to get paid £15 a week each, which we were really chuffed about, actually.
We had 24 hours to come up with a name. Sankey Soap people wanted to call it the soap opera. The other name on the table was Okie Dokie. Could be Okie Dokie's 20th anniversary, otherwise, thank God it's not. It's kind of a funny landscape, Manchester at the time. The hacienda was kind of on the decline. The gang problem was really bad there, and a lot of people were quite scared of going to a lot of the venues. Sankey's was in like the dark satanic mills of Manchester. You had to want to go there.
At that time, people didn't know where the hell it was, even when they heard about it. People, when they used to leave the club, if you turned left, you got lost into this awful estate, like the Badlands. You know, you see students leaving, you almost want to grab them because they never get out alive.
It felt a bit edgy getting there. It was like the safe haven that once you got there, you know, it was amazing, but getting there was always this kind of slightly tense experience.
I think it only felt like it was going to be something that lasted about 6 months in. The first 3 months were pretty bad attendance-wise. We were probably getting 300 people every week.
We kept faith in it, we believed in it. You could feel that there was something there.
I think the turning point was when Richie Houghton played after about 6 months, and that was the first time we had a queue around the block. And then the following week was Andrew Weatherall. That was it after that. We were pretty much full.
The fact that they had the magazine, all the DJs wanted to play for them because a kind of mutual thing was growing.
Yeah, it was really interesting interviewing artists from Detroit and Chicago, you know, for Jockey Slot, and then being able to say to them, you know, we've got our own club, we'd love you to come and play. We had a great relationship, it seemed, with all of these, you know, legends from Chicago and Detroit, and that relationship really developed with Bugged Out. I picked up, you know, Jeff Mills, Green Velvet, you know, Robert Hood, you know, all of those people from, you know, Manchester Airport in my, you know, battered old mini metro.
Yeah, it's all very techno and quite hard Chicago house-based music. It was very Take No Prisoners kind of techno.
The thing about Bugged Out was how good the residents were, you know, like you almost didn't care who was on to a certain extent, because like James Holroyd and those people.
I am from Bugged Out, I'm from 20 years ago.
The difference in DJs when they turn up, I remember Derek May just going, I like this, it reminds me of Detroit. A few weeks later, Masters at Work refused to get out of the car until they had the money.
Yeah. Still fucking rum around here, isn't it? This was the original DJ booth.
That's why we gravitated to here.
With Bugged Out and with Sankey's, there was always a litany of strange and wonderful figures that would come in and out of your lives. And I remember Graham, the lighting guy, being one. And I seem to remember that you'd find his daughter asleep underneath the lighting box, when I presume when he had custody for the evening.
The artists at that time, looking back at these, there's sort of Carl Craig's figures a lot, Boo Williams and labels like Relief from Chicago, you know, Cashmere, Green Velvet, all played here. Random Noise Generation, Active One, I'm all on.
Yeah, a lot of Detroit fellas. This was pretty much when it just about started, wasn't it? And it's just an immense record.
Yeah.
Nate Williams, Club Patrol. Another one for me in the Liverpool years was this. I basically used to turn up to the Courtyard and put this record on. Stereolab and Nurse with Wound, Simple Headphone Mind. I found that the music I liked was the stuff you didn't really know what to call it. When dance music gets too generic, I find it really boring, actually. And it was the records in between.
The vibe of what we achieved over the course of a few years was really good, and I think it was really good for Manchester at the time. And I think it was really good to refocus nightclubs back onto the music. And I don't think we did that single-handedly, but I think we were part of a movement within the city that brought music lovers into nightclubs.
I'd quite like the whole documentary just to be loads of people just going, oh, I don't remember anything.
Sankey's was special back then. It was a really cool venue. You know, the Spice Girls used to go there and dance, apparently.
Yeah, there was celebrities coming to the club, and you know, we used to sometimes find that funny if it was someone from Coronation Street or something like that, and sometimes we used to get those people back to our after parties, and we used to find that even funnier that someone off the telly was in our house maybe doing things that they shouldn't be doing. We thought it was hilarious. That was part of the mix, that, you know, we'd have this serious music on, and if, you know, a Man United player wanted to come down and listen to, you know, Green Velvet or Derek May, then, you know, so be it. We thought that was a pretty cool thing.
So because it's the 20th year, we've been going through all the Detroiters we've amassed in the office. It's funny to see the things we've come across that sort of show our age, like cassette tapes. This is, I think, from the first birthday, which was mixed by James Holroyd. Birthday present for everyone. They've had a record label for about 5 years, but we weren't very business savvy with it. I think we got the accounts after the first year and we realised that these stickers were really expensive. I think we lost 2p on every record that we sold.
When Sankey shut down suddenly, it felt like the end. But then Paul and Jono got a call from down the road in Liverpool from the country's most famous superclub, Cream.
We used to have the train times from Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds on the back of the flyer. What time you could get back after 6 in the morning.
To go to Cream and fill it with 3,500 people and us not to have watered down our booking policy definitely felt like an achievement.
It became a real focal point for the North, I think.
So all the integral DJs migrated over to Cream and raised their game. But it was a couple of shy French lads that really cemented their place as a key part of the Bugged Out family.
I think we did their first ever interview. They were very cool, sort of 18-year-olds, good-looking kids.
We did their first ever cover when they had no masks on. Well, the story goes that they hated the shoot so much that they never ever did another photo shoot again without their masks on.
I think one of the highlights from that time was the 4th birthday. Their manager, Pedro, rang us up and said, oh, Thomas Bangles wants to come and do a live set on Friday if you'd have him. And then I think 2 days before the birthday, Pedro rang up again and said, Guy Manuel's feeling a bit left out, so can he come along as well, and you can have Daft Punk DJing and Thomas Bangalore playing live, is that all right? We were like, yeah.
They opened with Stevie Wonder's Happy Birthday and the lights went up, the room was full, and that definitely felt like a proud and emotional moment.
I think the artwork was probably more important back then because flyers were the only way you could promote a club. Got like Robbie Williams, his head grafted onto a techno artist for some weird reason. And on this particular one, this has got Daft Punk's first live show, October the 13th, it would have been 1995, and it was £5 to get in and £1.50 for a drink. Then when we went to Liverpool, we had a phase of doing massive slogans. At the time, Gatecrasher had this "We will always be with you" slogan, which we thought was a bit earnest, so ours just says, "It's just a big disco."
I remember leaving university and being in the bugged out office, and there was one computer that Jono possibly would go on a Tuesday and check his emails. It was a different time back then, so you couldn't promote things in the way that you obviously would do now. It's much more professional.
Yeah, you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have Twitter, you didn't even really... I think we had a website that, you know, was like a holding page.
So whilst the early years of Bugged Out were very much about that marriage of Midwest America with the northwest of England, it had to spread its wings and eventually found a regular home at the End in London.
When we started at the End, it was almost like a rebirth for us, I think.
When I wasn't DJing, I went down to a lot of the Bugged Outs at the End. They were really, really fantastic nights. I mean, I remember particularly the last one where they had Justice just because of the riot of the crowd.
I remember a crazy guy, and I hope he's still alive, came in front of stage and starting to eat the glow sticks and drink in front of us. And we were behind the decks and we were like, what are you doing, man? You're crazy.
Electroclash happened, which is something that Bugged Out embraced fully. You know, they were putting on Miss Kitten and the Hacker, and a lot of those guys.
It was like a game changer for the people in the audience, for me, and for Bugged Out. House music was huge again, but it was just kind of got really boring and quite stale.
It was quite refreshing to see girls DJ with really cool makeup and leather skin-tight outfits and stuff.
For me, it was the most exciting time since Acid House, since I was 18 and going to the Hacienda. I think if that hadn't have come around, we might have even thrown the towel in.
There was a big tension in the room out of like excitement and love for music. It was very pure in a way.
I loved going. In actuality, the very fact that I started DJing there disappointed me slightly, because that was the one night that I went out with my friends and that we would all kind of make a point of. You know, it was like 1 week till Bugged Out.
It just looked so exciting from outside. It felt really special having something more unique at that time. It was just that little moment in those years where it felt something only a small group of us was playing, and felt very friendly and very open-minded as well. You know, from the start I felt like I can really do whatever I like, and people being very receptive. That's always the best for a DJ, you know, to have that kind of crowd.
We had an album launch for Tiga. We asked him who he wanted to play. He said, well, one of my biggest influences was Alternate, the old rave band from 1991. I made some calls and found out that one of them was still kind of going under that concern, so I think he got a friend to dress up as the other one.
He had like the whole suits on and the things and the gloves, and everybody was like, yeah, it was awesome.
So a really prescient booking, because it was just before New Rave kicked off, so Alternate were playing and the Klaxons were down the front taking notes, I think.
We totally ripped Alternate, and I'm always like huge fans. I do remember being down the front. I remember us all being there. And I remember there were whistles in mouths and there was a lot of neon flying around, so it was great. Right. It sounds about right.
With the club selling out every time and big names flying in to play from all over the world, they decided to branch out and put on a festival by the sea. The ticket sales nearly bankrupted the whole operation, but it didn't stop them bringing it back over a decade later.
That was a brave thing to do, probably slightly daft and expensive, but you know, I love the fact that they thought, yeah, this is really going to work.
Yeah, I didn't want to do the Weekender Mark II just because one we did in 2000 was so poorly attended, but Charlotte was really keen to do it and kind of took the reins really. I'm really glad we did it.
I was hugely into doing the Weekender. I was the biggest champion of it, and I'm really pleased and excited that we got to do it again. You know, it was definitely the right thing to do.
Last year's was a pretty special weekend. I'd been there since the Friday, completely spun out. Last day, like, you're going for it now just to keep yourself going. Met eats everything. 10 minutes later, I had luminous paint complete. I looked like a what's it that had been through space. It was like just glitter, orange. Yeah, it was fun.
We were asked to play the pool party. We dropped the first house tune and everybody was kind of swimming around doing their thing, and then we just noticed that everyone stopped swimming and then got to a point where they could stand up and just started dancing like they could have been anywhere else. It was bizarre.
Yeah. It's quite funny because last weekend, the Disclosure headlined the Friday night. I realised that the younger of the two was born the year Bugged Out started.
Despite the scale of the club increasing massively, they still managed to cultivate a genuine family atmosphere, with a gang of committed, wonderful and often eccentric regulars.
In the early years, we used to have probably a good core 50 people you just always see down the front. There's this one couple, Caroline and Sal. They used to come out every Friday, to the point that when he wanted to ask Caroline to marry him, he did it on the floor of Bugged Out. He got down on one knee during some banging techno track, probably.
I just decided on the kind of spur of the moment, quickly ripped it out as you do, and kind of, but nobody really noticed, everybody was just dancing, and we just kind of paused in our revelry and did it, and then that was it, and we were away.
I sort of just have a remembrance of being then later on in the main room, sort of showing people my ring, but that was about as much as I can remember of it really. It was all a bit of a blur.
We were lucky enough to be getting in gratis quite from the start, weren't we? Because Caroline shared some poppers with Mr. Holroyd. We used to sort of arrange our holidays around it and everything. When you'd go each month, and then there'd always be the flyer for the next month. You know, the first thing you do when you go in there, where's the flyers? Where's the flyers? Who's on next? Oh my God, who's on next? You know, who's that? Oh, I don't know him. Oh, you know, and you'd be telling all your friends and ringing everybody up. But yeah, that was it.
And if Caroline and Sarah encapsulate the early years, there can only be one punter synonymous with the current generation of the club.
The dancing misanthrope, yeah, he's an absolute legend.
I mean, any party they throw, I'll always be there, always at the front, always want to get there early. Maybe it's a bit of a weird spectacle, but once I'm in the mood, once these are on, the lights are up, it's, you know, it doesn't really matter. By the end of the night, I'm still rooting in the same spot.
I regularly see Alan the dancing misanthrope on the dance floor at the front. It's his special place. He always manages to get right in there, but that's normally because he gets there before it opens.
I think one of the most memorable Bugged Out nights, I guess, was Errol Alkin's 10-hour Easter set. I think I was the only one who managed to dance from the whole getting right to the end, all 10 hours. It was amazing.
That guy just does not give a shit, I don't think, and like, is just totally kind of going for it. And there's a lot of like, oh, okay, yeah, get on with it.
I don't even think he asks anymore. We just let him in. Just like open the door. Here you go. We're opening in 5 minutes. Here's your can of Red Bull.
Bugged Out has always embodied this kind of slightly alternative persona. You know, being a fan of indie music right through the 90s, I had an interest in dance music, but I didn't really have an outlet for it. I know now it seems kind of strange to envisage, you know, alternative culture and club culture being so separate, but at the time, the reason we didn't go to dance clubs was through the fear of being beaten up or something. It was like, you know, it was like that. I definitely think that Bugged Out influenced my approach to promoting parties.
The standard is set very high, and they want to put on nights that people love and talk about, and they're not kind of after making a quick buck or kind of fleecing people, jumping on a bandwagon, or just rinsing something out to make a few quid. They've kind of suffered for it as well. There's times when things haven't gone so well and they've lost money, and you know, it's been difficult. They want to do things that they were believed in, you know.
I remember one night at Heaven where they did that Electroclash night, and it was probably like 6 months too early for London, but Bugged Out certainly have been taking those risks and booking the artists that they believe in when they believe in them.
I mean, whoever was kind of really at the cutting edge, you know, Bugged Out were there.
There is sort of no rule. It's play good music and have fun. That is what they push.
It's forward thinking. They do what they've done, so they've always got their stalwarts, their main people that have been there from the fucking get-go. But I was a nobody really, and they weren't afraid to take a chance on people. And look now, I'm like playing before the fucking Chemical Brothers.
The club has never been about the superstar DJ thing, and has always been an egalitarian organisation. But there is one act that stands out as the quintessential Bugged Out experience, and in many ways their stellar career has mirrored that of the club.
Yeah, I mean, Bugged Out have always kept their credibility. You know, they've never gone for the big sort of cheese up and never sort of jumped on the back of a bandwagon. That's probably the reason that Chem's only really DJed Bugged Out stuff. It's like, I've been trying to get hold of them for years. I can't. That's where they go.
We did, I think, probably our first ever interview with them. And they were just like-minded people interested in like a sort of different take on going to clubs. You know, they're our friends and we like to do stuff with our friends.
Did the first ever Chemical Brothers interview. I think this is one of their first covers. Tom's still got his long hair and his yellow sunglasses.
Daft Punk and the Chemical Brothers were definitely the quintessential Bugged Out acts, and you know, we feel like we've kind of grown up together with them, and I think it's great that Chemical Brothers still play Bugged Out and still responsible for some of the best nights at the club.
When you have the Bugged Out stamp, it means something, and I'm proud, you know, like a Headbanger or Daft Punk cross pass of Bugged Out, you know.
It's that difficult thing, you know, of like not being swayed by sort of fads, but still being aware of what's going on and still taking the things you like from new ideas, taking what you like that you hear that connects with what you find exciting about clubs or about dance music, but not this week thinking, oh, we need to be a trap night. You know, it still has like a core thing that it's, you know, its centre is that it likes acid house music.
A clarion call when we started was Viva Acid House. It was across the cover of Jockey Slut, it was a banner on the club, it was on all the flyers. And 20 years on, it's still the way I think the night should be soundtracked. It's still our clarion call. It's ended up being the way my life's been soundtracked. I think when we started, if you told me that, you know, we'd be going for 20 years, at the time I didn't even think we'd be going for 20 weeks. So for us to still be here 20 years on, you know, it's a real achievement, I think.
Hi, Mom. No.